So last video we said that taxing soda is one way to reduce quantity. Well, now let's apply chapters 5 and 6 together to talk about the elasticity of demand and how a tax might affect that. So let's assume that soda is elastic in demand, meaning there's very good substitutes, there's ways in which individuals would respond differently, such that when the price goes up, the quantity demand would change a lot. So they're very price sensitive. In this scenario, if I were to implement a tax, then this would be my quantity with a tax. Here would be my price that the buyer pays. And here's the price that the seller receives. And this would be the size of the tax, is that vertical distance there. And so as a result, what we just did was with that size of tax, we were able to reduce quantity by that much. So that is an elastic demand. Well, now let's look at an example where we have an inelastic demand, where elasticity of demand is less than 1. And when we look at actual data, when we look at like Mountain Dew is very elastic in demand, but when we look at sugar-sweetened beverages, soft drinks, soda in general is an inelastic demand. There's not good substitutes for soda itself. And so if we were to draw out that demand would look something more like this. So that's an elastic demand. And the question is, with an elastic demand, if we wanted to have that same reduction in quantity, how big would the tax have to be? Well, in this case, we would want to raise that tax that much, such that this is the price the buyer pays, and this is the price that the seller receives. And so now, to get that same quantity, this would be the size of the tax. So before we said this might be $3 to $1, so this might be the seller receives $1, the buyer would have to pay maybe $10. That is a huge change. The price change has to be a lot in order to get the same change in quantity. And so what we learn from this is that goods that are relatively elastic, right, a given change in price, or rather, to get a given change in quantity, the tax can be small. But for inelastic goods, to get that given change in quantity, the tax has to be big. And so that's what we can take home from this message is when individuals are placing a tax on soda, it has to be a very big tax to have an impact. And so if we were to look at maybe an example, so here is the demand, here's the supply. So when policymakers say, well, we want a tax of 15 cents per 32-ounce beverage, what you might find, so this is an increase in tax of 15 cents per 32 ounces, is that resulting change in quantity might be very small because the good is inelastic. And so policymakers need to realize of what type of good it is, elastic, inelastic, to understand how to set the taxes in order to achieve their policy goal. But the one clear thing is anytime we do set taxes, we are not going to be in equilibrium. Our quantity will be lower.